So let's move on to the next type of loop, which is the nested loop. Nested loop. So this nested loop means to use one or more loops inside another loop. To use one or more loops inside another loop. How do we do that? Let me explain to you better so that you understand better by using example. So let's say row. I'm going to divide some row and column of numbers. You remember this row can be anything. It's just a name I choose to use for my variable. So I say row, then give it 8 row. Then I'll use the for loop. I want to explain to you what nested loop is all about. I'll use for row in range, using the range function. For row in range, then 1 comma row plus 1, row plus 1. Remember our row is we already stored 8, the value 8 inside our row 1. So we'll now say row plus 1. That is from 8 plus 1 we'll get the number of row we have. Then we'll now come down again. We'll use another for loop inside this main for loop. This is what we call nested loop. So now say for column. Here we are going to define column. Let me just use in the short form for call. That is the short form of column. For column in range, we'll define using another range function. For column in range 1, then row plus 1. We use 1 again, comma, and then row plus 1. Then pass your column again. So this is what we call nested loop. So here we are just using this one for loop inside another for loop to determine the column and row of number. So we'll now come down and print column and the end. Come down and say print call, then comma end equals empty string. Is it okay? Then we'll now come down. Then under the for loop, we'll now print our empty string. Print empty string. So you see the effect of this. We are going to print out rows and columns of number within 8, from 1 to 8 in Angular format. So you can see now, you can see the angle of number we have here. We have 8 columns of number here and 8 rows of number as well, and we printed our number in an Angular format. So that's how to do that using nested loop. So without this nested loop, that kind of execution will not be possible by printing Angular form of a row and column of number like this. We use this program to calculate patterns of numbers in triangular format. So we can as well do something like this. Let's say x, we'll define a variable and then we'll store 1 inside our variable using the assignment operator. X equals 1, then less than or equal to 8, then y equals 0. We stored 0 inside y. Then we'll now come down and use another y. This is what we call nested y loop. The other one was nested for loop. This one is nested y loop. So we'll now say y less than equals 5. Y less than equals 5. Print x times y, and then comma end. This end empty string is used to end the execution when the desired condition or the required condition is met. So we'll now pass an empty string here. Now we'll come down again and say y plus equals 1. You know what this is all about already. Y plus equals 1. Then we'll come under the second or the nested y condition, print an empty string. We'll pass an empty string, an empty print statement. Then we'll now come down x again. We'll now come down and say x plus, I know this code will be will be confusing to you now, but you just need to follow up and understand what we are doing, as I will explain to you better. If you run this program, you'll see the result. Okay, we'll say I is not defined. Okay, sorry, let's change this. I was supposed to be X, so that if we run a program, you see the nature, the pattern at which our number is printed. The value we stored in our X time the value we stored in our Y. You see the pattern at which our number is printed here. So that is how this while loop also works. We're going to write a simple program that will print the word Python in a triangular form. How do we do that? I'll define a variable, my word. Always try to use a nice name for your variable. So we'll store Python inside the variable my word, and then we'll come down and say X. We'll pass an empty string X. Then we'll now use the for loop to loop over that our word Python. For I in my word, then we'll come down and say X plus equals 1, then print X, then come down and print X. You can see the program here. We define our variable my word, and then we store our word Python inside my word variable, and then we define another variable X and pass an empty string. Then we use the for loop to loop over the word or the data we stored in our my word variable, which is Python. So now come down and say X plus equals I. We remember we have already said that for I in my word. So we'll now come down and say X plus equals I. X plus equals I. You know what this is all about already. It means X equal to X plus I. And you know that X is an empty string and I is already representing is already containing the data in our my word. So if I print X now, we are going to have this word Python to be printed in a triangular form. So if I run my program, you see the outcome. You can see how it works: P, Py, Pyt, Pyth, and so on. So we have been able to print our Python word in a triangular form. So this is how it works. This is all about the loop function.